Hi, it's me, Ingrid INFP, and I'm sitting in the forest, and it's the 1st of May. The day before was Valpurgisnacht, which is Valborg in Swedish, and Swedish people stand in front of a bonfire and drink, and yeah, that's basically it. Then sometimes they will sing some songs about the spring, but yeah, I missed that because I was on my period and I had worked. I had been at work and I just felt like I needed to crash. So what I did is that I watched one of my favorite series. Oh, sorry, there are motorcycles even out here. Um, yeah, so I watched The Wheel of Time season 3, and I only have like 2 episodes left or something. Anyway, I haven't read the books, so this is just going to be based on the series. So for those of you who don't know, Wheel of Time is basically it's a world where there are many different cultures in that world, but they all understand that their lives and their whole beings is affected by this thing called the Wheel of Time, which is basically this aspect that time they believe kind of in reincarnation, and then kind of like the cyclicity of time and how they are all parts of the wheel of time. And you can see the wheel as kind of a loom with all of the threads of each person's actions and everything building together into a tapestry of time. And so everybody's consequences is kind of fate, and it kind of builds in. And so it's kind of like the butterfly effect of everything. It's not explicitly really said, but they do explain a little bit in the beginning. And then they kind of run with it. And it's not like they're super religious about this certain aspect. It's just kind of everybody's accepted this. And it's a world where magic exists, and where they're looking for, well, basically they're looking for a man called the Dragon Reborn, and the dragon, is going to be a really powerful person that's going to change the state of their lives forever. And there are, you could say, witches, female wizards that are called Isedai, and the Isedai often, because they are really powerful at magic, they need a protection in case, they get hurt. So they have a warder who's a man who will protect them, and they are really highly skilled in combat. And the warder is really has a really close bond, like a magical bond, so they can like feel each other's emotions, which super cool idea. And the Aes Sedai can also turn off that bond if they want to, and also if one of them dies, like that affects the other person extremely, and not just because of regular grief. It's also because of the magical bond that they had. And so also they can heal, and there's all sorts of fun stuff. Anyway, one of those Aes Sedai is Moraine, who is Rosamund Pike is basically the actress, and she is basically an INTJ. So I think that she's a really good example of an INTJ, because her whole vision is that she has to find the Dragon Reborn and help the Dragon Reborn on their mission. And that's her whole vision of what her life is about. And she will do everything for that cause. And I think that it's really how an INTJ works, everything for the NI vision. And when she cannot do that, when she cannot follow the NI vision, she is really lost and it gets overwhelmed by, those pesky emotions. And um, it's interesting to see, because it's not something that is regularly explored, I think, in media. Also, other things that are not regularly explored is the platonic bonds, and I think that the Warden Isedai bond is quite an interesting thing. Like, it's kind of like asexual bond, I mean, asexual, not asexual. Um, but and also there is polyamory. That's actually kind of interesting. I don't think that I've seen that in a show before. But polyamory is completely fine in that universe. It's actually expected if you're an Aes Sedai, for example, or if you are an Aiel, is kind of part of their culture. Also, there is a lot of like lesbian, gay, bi representation. In that it shows a lot of same-sex couples, and it's like completely fine. There is no homophobia in that world, which is lovely to see, you know. And it explores such deep topics, and I just really, really like it. However, the world is a little bit of a hard one to live in, so I think that if you're an INFP, that's probably not the world for you. And I don't think I could find any INFP characters. I think that there's plenty of SJ characters, maybe some ISFJ, ESTJ. Nynaeve is an ESTJ, really badass woman, but there's not much of that NEFI combination. I think that there's ISFJs, like Perrin, I think. I think that Rand is probably an ISFP, so he would be the closest. But I think that most of the characters are judgers, actually. Because I think that the whole point of the story is that everybody's following this destiny, kind of this fate. And if you're a perceiver, that's going to be hard to do, and I think that is the whole reason why one of the only perceiver types in this whole story is the Dragon Reborn, who's going to change the state of the world. Even if he has to follow his destiny, he kind of has to do this on his own terms, which is why he does have an IDO if he's an ISFP, so he connects a little bit with Moraine in that he wants to follow that vision, of him being the Dragon Reborn and doing all these things, because that's what he has to do in order for the world to turn, but he has that FI that is really the strongest thing there, and so he will rebel against certain things. And so, yeah, I don't think that there is an INFP in here. There are plenty of SJs, but also plenty of NI users. I think that probably the person who wrote the book probably is an NI user, because it's not really conducive to any stuff, but that's what makes it so interesting for me, because it's like, that's not at all the way that I think. The sun went behind some clouds. Anyway. And I think it's interesting how... anyway, also the show is awesome. It's beautiful. It's... the costuming, the story, the design of the sets, the dream world, the way that each culture seems different from the cultures in our real world, at the same time have each a distinct like sense of like you are really in a different place. And there's such a sense of detail, and the relationships between the characters are really interesting. um, I I really like Moraine, and Moraine and Schwan is like, I cry every time. I cry every time because, you know, it's like it's sad. It's sad. There's so many sad things that happen. And I don't want to spoil too much, but at the same time. So anyway, they they have all these relationships, and some relationships are not meant to be, and it's not meant to be. It's like the cruelty of fate is like, no, that's never going to work out. And it was doomed from the start, you know? And yet these characters still have hope. And they still, you know, take action for their own life. But yeah, so I get choked up just thinking about this series. Anyway, I also really like, you know, the stories of the girls, the women who choose the lifestyle of being first what they call a wisdom, who can channel magic, and then become an Isedai, like to really use the power of magic for good. If I were an Isedai, I would choose. There are different like Hogwarts houses, you could say, for the uh, for the Aes Sedai, and I would choose to be a brown Aja, which is they basically sit in cozy libraries and seek knowledge. That's that's what I would do. I would I would not be bothered with all these big intrigues. I would just like sit there and do that. But I've also considered there's the yellow Aja that heals, that's interested in healing magic, and also I'm interested in the white Aja, because they're interested in logic and truth and philosophy. However, it seems like a lot of the people in the white Aja have visions, you know, and I don't want to have visions. Yeah, and all the characters in this series have some kind of trauma, and it's like tragically terrible, but it's such, it's so compelling. You're like, wow, yeah, like this is, the emotions are running high, you know? And yeah, it's psychologically draining to watch this, but I really like it. And um, yeah, there's so much gay representation. I mean, obviously, I'm just talking about the series, not the books. I don't know how much there is there. Probably not as much. Um, but yeah, and I like yeah, they have this friendship. The characters are intertwined in very, like, they're all intertwined in different ways, and that's kind of the point of the story. But it's like this happens and it affects so much, every single thing that happens. And yeah, I would get stressed out in such a world, you know, if everything that I did had some kind of significance. um I I'm not sure what's going to happen at the end of this series here, but so far I've been so entranced by every episode. So I'm going to continue on my route here, and I'm going to go back home and watch the two last episodes that I missed watching. Um, then I also went to watch The Handmaid's Tale's last finale season, because I haven't watched that. I'm really into that as well. And I do want to watch Squid Game 2 at some point. But yeah, we're going to take just one thing at a time. So now we're just going to finish Wheel of Time. Tell me if you have read or watched The Wheel of Time. I know that the books are supposedly very different from the series. I think that I'll only read the first book because they're quite big books. And tell me if you have any MBTI insights about this, or just any insights. Yeah, have a great day, everybody. Bye.